So I'm joined right now in a very nice hotel suite where I do most of my interviews to talk about a very serious project that's launching soon, because of course that's where that would happen. I'm joined right now by Stephen Ellis, formerly known as Snoopeh, Bryce Blum, known as eSportsLaw, esports lawyer. What is it now?
Whatever. eSportsLaw, I think.
Okay,
I'm pretty
you
sure.
think?
I like
I'm pretty
esports.
sure.
eSportsLaw.
Yeah,
Okay.
eSportsLaw. I have a
Right,
parody
very
account
good.
now.
Yes. Well, anyway, so you guys are launching something called the Players Resource Center. So what exactly is it? It's like a physical location where people can go in and like get information about esports. How's this going to work?
When you ask for a physical location, you mean a brick and mortar store?
yeah.
No, not quite
Someday.
that much.
Well, it could have glass. Like it could be a modern building.
No, this definitely doesn't. Basically, we want to create essentially a place where players can go to get information and get introduced to the industry, and even players that are currently in the industry that think they know a lot of things, help them understand facets they might not be thinking about.
Okay. So you're talking about like professional to semi-professional esports players.
Yeah, any player, we want to open this up to any player who is presented a contract. So whether you're aspiring, amateur, or even a current professional player, we would like you to come here to get information on whether that was financial advice, tax advice, legal advice.
Okay.
A one-stop shop, and then also content surrounding that and things you should consider when you are a player.
Okay. So is this also going to help? Because I know in the past people have spoken about player salary transparency, unions, all that kind of stuff. Is this also supposed to assist with the sort of situation that players find themselves in financially and not knowing sort of what the rates are and all that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see that as a part of it, but it really, I mean, it attacks kind of the broader concern with salary transparency, which is, how do we get players in a system where they have the type of support that you would have for a traditional athlete, right? And it's, a player in the NBA wouldn't sign a contract without having a lawyer, an agent, and a manager all taking a look at it. Like, they're not managing their own money. They've got armies of people who are doing that, right? And so this is about kind of creating that baseline so that players have like a really easy place to go and access content, and then also service providers who will do pro bono consultations with them on really anything that impacts their lives.
So Bryce, I know you mentioned like pro bono service providers. So this isn't just the two of you guys that are doing this. You're going to also find other people to assist with it?
Yeah, I definitely hope it's not just the two of us. Yeah, I mean, the idea right on launch day is that we'll be soliciting the services of a lot of people, both behind the scenes and helping to build the project, right? Like we need web developers, we need designers, we need managers who can comb through what will hopefully be hundreds, if not thousands of applications for people who want to help. And then we'll also be looking for lawyers, accountants, tax professionals, financial planners, branding and social media consultants, right? There's a wide array of different categories that we're looking for, or things that we didn't think about, right? And so the hope would be to come up with a handful of people in each of these categories who then we can make available to all the players that come in. So if you ask a financial question, you can go to the financial planner, or if you're doing your taxes for the year, you can go to the accountant, so on and so forth.
So you guys are announcing this, but it's not really going to launch yet because you're still kind of going to be looking for people.
Yeah, we're going to basically put the outreach, so on Reddit and news outlets like Yahoo Sports, we're going to put that out there on the 19th. And afterwards, we're probably predicting it'll take about 2 to 3 months after we recruit the web developers and then get all the service providers on board to actually flesh it out. We're probably estimating about 2 to 3 months for it to come out.
And we do have people lined up in the majority of these categories. For some categories, we have a few, right? Because I mean, a lot of this idea came from like Steven and I getting emails from people. I get an email from a tax professional at Moss Adams, right? And they have a full-time job. They are just also a passionate esports fan. They say, hey, if a pro player ever wanted some help, I'm happy to do it on the side, no charge. It'd just be great to give back to the industry that I love. And so the hope is to get all of these people to come out of the woodworks and then make a one-stop place for players to come in, read curated content, and then get connected to someone for advice.
Now, Stephen, you in the past have taken some heat for previously saying you were committed to creating a union, and then sort of coming back and saying that after doing some research you found that that's not feasible right now. Is this sort of in response to that, or what really inspired the whole kind of creation of this thing and your involvement?
I mean, to speak to your point about the union, I heavily thought about that and spent a good several months and some money looking into that extensively, and realized I was a bit naive in how I was approaching that. And I do think we'll see that one day, just maybe not as soon as I thought. This is not an attempt to try and create a union by any means. It's more there's an issue within the industry right now where a player that comes into this space doesn't understand it. For example, when I first got into this industry, the first contract I signed was not a great contract, and it took me about a year and a half before I started to understand the industry and get mentorship. When your player lifespan is only 3 to 4 years, maybe at the upper level, that's a year already gone before you start to figure it out. So hopefully we can help players that are looking to go pro, or even at the amateur level that are getting contracts, just kind of somewhat understand the industry and realize what they're getting into.
Not to mention players at the highest level, right? I mean, it's not like the, Bjergsons of the world have an army of people behind them that are helping them do everything, ranging from legal advice to financial planning. So, I mean, I really think these services could be available for every player at every level in every game.
Sure. So you mentioned pro bono. So will this be completely free, or how is it going to be sort of structured from a financial and monetary standpoint?
So this is not a business, it's completely altruistic. And what I would highlight is we're looking for service providers to give away about 3 hours of their time, minimum a week, pro bono. And they would allocate 30 minutes per player for a 30-minute consultation. So if one lawyer, for example, if it was Bryce, was going to do 3 hours consultation a week, that would be 6 players that he would speak with on a week pro bono. And I believe lawyers have to do pro bono work anyway as part of the law thing. That
To maintain your license, there's a certain, depending on the state, you have a certain amount of pro bono hours you have to do. And that's not to say that these players could not retain these professionals through their independent law firms or accounting firms or whatever, insert service provider and professional office here, right? It just, that process won't happen through the PRC. So it's totally not for profit, it's completely free to use, and if you get really good advice from a lawyer and you say, hey, down the road, I'd love to, next time I get a player contract, I'd love to retain you to review that and help me out, or an endorsement deal, you're totally free to do that. It's just not something that will happen through the PRC.
And I remember the first contract I got, I felt I couldn't justify getting a lawyer because I felt like I wasn't making a lot of money, and like this lawyer's going to take like $300 of my money. And I was lucky to find a lawyer that would do some pro bono work initially for me to basically do a once over my contract. And I started to see the value because there was nuances in my contract I just didn't understand. And having that lawyer go over it for me then led me to say, okay, I can justify spending some money. The next time I go into getting that next contract, I'm going to spend some money and actually spend some time going through this first.
So kind of final question. You guys are launching this very soon and looking to build this. And you said it's completely altruistic. Is this something that you think will continue to grow and remain altruistic years down the road, or is this eventually going to build into something that's more of a business? How do you see this stuff progressing?
I think ultimately the most important goal of ours is not to think 2 years down the line. This is a current problem in the industry, and we just want to launch that and provide a platform for players to go to. Will this evolve into perhaps doing something like a player symposium in 6 months to a year or longer? Perhaps. But right now we're primarily focused on being a go-to hub for new players or even current players just to try and understand their position in the industry better.
And to be clear, we don't own this, right? So this is not going to be a for-profit business that Steven and Bryce are making money off of. If ever the scope of the project were to expand, we would do something like a symposium and we needed to raise funds to do that, it's possible we could do that through sponsorship sales on the event or through some kind of crowdfunding, but this is not going to be a situation where it's going to charge players for services. That money goes into a bank account for the PRC and then we're pulling money out. There is no bank account for the PRC at this stage, and if there is later, it will purely be to hold funds to produce events, all within the mission.
Very good. So it's announced today as people watch, but how can people find out more information about it? If people want to volunteer, if players want to reach out a little bit preemptively and find out, if they can work with you guys, how do people find all this stuff?
So on Reddit on April 19th, there's going to be a blast on every esports title in every subreddit. Yeah. And go there, there's going to be a lot of information. It'll tell you how to get involved, the people we're looking for. And the website will be www.esportsprc.com, and we'll ask you to fill in a bunch of details there. But I suggest going on to the Reddit thread, and a lot of it will be broken down there and how you can get involved.
How many of those threads will get removed by mods?
We anticipate a high percentage. So if we go with like a very big blast,
yeah,
we can get it out there before the mods get to take it off.
If we hit 12 Reddits, we gotta stay alive on at least 2.
Okay, yeah, I think that's the ratio. I believe I agree with that. Well, thank you guys so much for the interview and for talking to me about the project. Sounds really promising, and I'm excited to see how it develops over the next couple of months. So thanks again. For more esports coverage, stay tuned to esports.yahoo.com.